Now, the BBC News at 6 with Sophie Raworth.
At 6, a sword attack in East London leaves a 14-year-old boy dead. A man is arrested after 4 others are also stabbed. Police say it is not terror-related.
Lock your doors! Lock your doors!
A 36-year-old man is being questioned by police tonight as locals here in East London are left reeling after this brutal sword attack.
Also tonight, the King meets fellow cancer patients as he returns to public duties for the first time since his diagnosis. 2 men in their 30s are charged with causing criminal damage to Northumberland's famous tree at Sycamore Gap. And the sailors, swimmers and rowers clubbing together to ask the government to clean up the UK's water.
On BBC London, we're in Hainault with more on the shocking sword attack, killing a 14-year-old boy and injuring several others. We hear from a shaken community.
Good evening. A 14-year-old boy has died and a number of others, including 2 police officers, have been injured after a sword attack in East London this morning. Police declared a critical incident after they were called to reports that a vehicle had been driven into a house at Hainault shortly before 7 o'clock. A 36-year-old man is in custody. Police say the incident is not believed to be targeted or terrorism related. Our special correspondent Lucy Manning is in Hainault for us now. Lucy.
A 14-year-old boy did not make it to school this morning, stabbed behind the police tape, and his family now suffering the consequences of that sword rampage. The suspect is in custody in hospital, but he is too injured to be questioned yet, but he's been arrested on suspicion of murder. The police here this morning being hailed for their courage. The bravery of a police officer toe-to-toe with the suspect who appears to be brandishing a sword. Words exchanged, but he doesn't surrender. Early morning in the suburbs of Hainault, there is danger and panic. Police cars stream in, but the 36-year-old man takes off, officers not hesitating to follow him. Frightened in their homes, other footage shows him crouching down at people's windows.
A grey transit van pulled up. The man got out with a samurai sword. He tried to talk to one female resident. She ran away from him. As he's pulled the sword out in the air, she's tried to warn the other neighbour. As he's turned around, he's been struck in the head. He was running around, still after the police officers came with the sword in his hand, looking for victims.
Come here! Drop the sword!
Officers corner him on a garage roof.
Come this way!
Can you still see him?
Yeah. Oi! He's going in people's gardens, man. Lock your doors! Lock your doors! Everyone lock your doors!
"22 minutes after they were called, officers tasered him. This was the dramatic moment the police finally brought him to the ground and arrested him on suspicion of murder. Manpreet witnessed the attack and the moment officers stopped him.
People who were trying to fight the guy, they ran towards the station, and one of the guys got stabbed in the neck, and he was holding his neck like that, and he was like, I've been stabbed, I've been stabbed. He tried to enter somebody's house, I think, and then where I saw, people were, like, police were trying to taser him, and that's where it got him down.
Just after midday, there was a devastating police statement.
It is with great sadness that I confirm that one of those injured in the incident, a 13-year-old boy, has died from their injuries. He was taken to hospital after being stabbed and sadly died a short while after. The events of this morning are truly horrific, and I cannot even begin to imagine how those affected must be feeling. My thoughts are with the injured, their families and the wider community as we all begin to come to terms with what has happened and try to understand what has happened here.
4 other people were injured. 2 were police officers with stab wounds, significant but not life-threatening injuries, but both needed surgery. Aerial pictures show a van that appears to have been crashed near to the scene of the attack. The police said this wasn't a targeted attack, nor did they believe it was terrorism related. But a family expected their son to come home from school this afternoon with stories of his day. He didn't. Lucy Manning, BBC News.
The King has carried out his first public engagement since announcing he has cancer. He and the Queen visited a cancer centre at a hospital in London. He met patients and staff at University College London and spoke of the shock of being told he had the disease. The King's been having cancer treatment since early February. It hasn't been made public what kind of cancer he has. Here's Johnny Diamond.
It's been a while, but on a sunny morning in central London, the King rolled into town. One question on everybody's minds.
Sir, how are you feeling? Lovely to see you back. Wonderful to see you back.
The smile seemed to say it all. There's not normally this much attention paid to a royal visit, but this was the first by the King in a long time.
It's nice to see him out and about, looking so well.
Nice to see him back to work.
Of course. We've all got to go work, haven't we? So obviously he's going to have to jump in sooner or later, love him. But no, it was nice to see him.
We're really excited to see that he's well enough to be out and about on this beautiful sunny day in London. And it's a bit of a special treat, really, and unexpected.
Inside the Cancer Treatment Centre, appreciation for a man still undergoing treatment. And time to chat with those who'd waited for him. The King giving every sign of enjoying his time out and about.
Sally's in charge of us.
The King heard about new ways to tackle cancer. He wants, the palace says, to encourage others to get tested early.
Well, the trouble is to get enough people early.
Yeah. So we have to invite...
A man who told the world about his diagnosis, hearing about the benefits of early treatment.
We're going to meet Leslie over here.
Then it was upstairs to meet those receiving chemotherapy. As the King asked after the health of patients, the questions kept coming back to him. But there was time too for talk, one patient to another, and for a moment of maybe mutual reassurance. As they left, bouquets of posies for the King and Queen from 2 of the youngest patients here.
This was a relatively low-key return to public duties. You might call it a soft restart. And the palace has made it clear that what comes next depends on the King's health and the advice of his medical team. But he's clearly delighted to be back on the road.
No word as to when the next engagement is, but the King clearly happy to be out in public again. Johnny Diamond, BBC News, Central London.
2 men from Cumbria have been charged in connection with the felling of the famous Sycamore Gap tree in Northumberland last September. 38-year-old Daniel Graham and 31-year-old Adam Carruthers have both also been charged with causing criminal damage to Hadrian's Wall. They are due to appear at Newcastle Magistrates Court next month. Our correspondent, Alison Freeman, is at Sycamore Gap for us now. Alison.
Yes, Sophie, we can all remember, can't we, what can only be described as an outpouring of grief when, towards the end of September last year, we found out that the famous Sycamore Gap tree had in fact been felled overnight. It was probably the most famous tree in the world. It found fame in the Robin Hood Prince of Thieves film, and it was associated with many important life moments for people, like engagements or the scattering of ashes. Well, today, Northumbria police said they have in fact charged 2 men over the felling of the tree. They've also been charged with causing criminal damage to Hadrian's Wall just behind it there. They are Daniel Graham, who's 38, and Adam Carruthers, who's 31. Both of them are from Cumbria. Now, police say they are due before Newcastle magistrates on the 15th of May. Northumbria Police said in a statement today that it recognises the strength of feeling associated with the tree, but it's reminding people not to speculate, particularly online, because it could impact the ongoing case.
Alison, thank you. The search for Scotland's next First Minister and SNP leader is underway after Humza Yousaf announced his resignation yesterday. The former Deputy First Minister John Swinney says he's considering a bid for the leadership, having received the backing of several senior SNP figures. The former Finance Secretary, Kate Forbes, who Yousaf narrowly defeated in a fractious leadership race just over a year ago, has also been spoken of as a possible contender. Our Scotland editor James Cook has the latest.
Will John Swinney be the next SNP leader?
Mr Swinney, are you going to meet Kate Forbes?
Obviously, I have lots of discussions with lots of people, so we'll leave it. Thank you.
I'm still weighing everything up. Thanks very much.
Is she running? Is he running? Who knows?
I have a lot of personal circumstances to think about to make sure that it would be the right decision for my family to do this. So I'm giving that all a great deal of thought, and to make sure I come to the right decision for my family, my party and my country.
Well, I'm still obviously considering all the options. I've not ruled anything out. I'm conscious that I do have a groundswell of support amongst the members, and these things need to be weighed up. Not least whether this is the right time for the party and the right decision for the country.
Mr Swinney has packed a lot of politics into his 60 years. He's been both right-hand man and, 2 decades ago, party leader himself. Now he's under intense pressure to run for the office again.
He is the man. He has, I believe, what we need right now. He has the characteristics, he has the skills and experience that we need.
The race to lead the SNP has barely begun, but already Kate Forbes looks like she might be struggling. But what's happening here isn't just about personalities. There's also a discussion bubbling under the surface about the future direction of the SNP and whether the party wants to have a debate about that direction now or later. Ms Forbes is popular with the party's grassroots, and her supporters want members to have a say.
I'd love to see Kate Forbes run with us. She is an outstanding talent, having got to know her so much better over the last year. She is one of the great talents of her generation.
Humza Yousaf is heading out. We may find out pretty soon who's coming in. James Cook, BBC News, Edinburgh.
The UK COVID inquiry has begun sitting in Belfast for the next 3 weeks to look into how the pandemic was handled in Northern Ireland. More than 4,000 people died during the first 2 years of the pandemic. Many of the bereaved families attended the hearing and have begun giving evidence. The inquiry was told that Northern Ireland's fragile political system hampered its response to the virus, and there was no government advice to cancel large gatherings in the early stages. Donald Trump has been fined $9,000 for contempt of court after repeatedly attacking witnesses and jurors at his criminal trial in New York. The judge warned that he could face jail if he does it again. Our North America editor Sarah Smith is outside the courthouse for us in New York. Sarah.
Yeah, well, Donald Trump has got until the end of this week to pay that fine, and he also has to take down all those social media posts in which he was attacking his former lawyer, Michael Cohen, the adult film star Stormy Daniels, and even the jury pool. We saw when he was arriving in court this morning that for once he had his son, Eric Trump, with him. And this is interesting because that is the first time we've seen a member of the Trump family come to court with him, and the lack of his relatives in the courtroom had attracted some comment here in the US. As he made his way in, he said, as he frequently does, that the trial was a scam and the judge should recuse himself. And this is quite interesting because he is allowed to attack and criticise the judge, even though the judge has ordered him not to attack potential witnesses, jurors or any court staff, not to say anything about them online. Now, the judge also noted that a $1,000 fine for each instance, $9,000 in total, it's not that much money for a very wealthy defendant like Donald Trump. And in fact, the judge said he wished he could fine him far more, but New York law says $1,000 is the max. So he said if he continues to repeat these offences, if it is then necessary and appropriate, the judge said, he will consider sending him to jail if that's the only way to discipline him. And in fact, already the prosecution have come up with 4 other instances where he thinks that Donald Trump has breached the so-called gag order against him. And there's going to be a hearing about those here at this court on Thursday.
Sarah, thank you. The time is very nearly 6:15, our top story this evening. A 14-year-old boy is killed and 4 people injured after multiple stabbings by a sword-wielding attacker in East London. And coming up, beginner's luck for this young metal detectorist. The 10-year-old will be telling us what he managed to uncover.
Later on BBC London, a community in shock after a 14-year-old boy is killed in a sword attack. We'll have a special programme live from Hainault in North East London.
The death of a 14-year-old boy in London today is a timely reminder of the number of people, particularly young men and boys, who are stabbed to death every year in the UK. There were around 250 fatal stabbings in England and Wales last year alone. And for every life lost, there are, of course, many more left shattered by grief. Our correspondent Dan Johnson has spent the past few months piecing together the long-term impact that knife crime has on families and communities. He has been speaking to the mother of 16-year-old Mikey Roynan, who was stabbed to death last summer. You may find parts of his report distressing.
This is Mikey's bedroom. It's untouched, exactly as it was the day he went. The trainers, all of his clothes hung over the banister, all of it, all memories.
This is the story of a young life lost to knife crime at just 16.
One thing that's really hard is that I'll never ever be called mum again.
10th of June last summer, and teenagers are heading to a birthday party in Bath that's been advertised on Snapchat. This is Mikey travelling from the edge of Bristol with some friends. He was about to come across this group of teenagers from Wiltshire heading to the same party.
I've known Mikey since probably say about 12, 13.
This friend of Mikey's was with him.
I got to the party, yeah, the vibes sound happy, it's a sound party. And then, yeah, it just all went downhill.
We may never know exactly what sparked the confrontation, but at the back of the house, Mikey was stabbed in the back of his neck.
He had blood coming out of his mouth, everyone was just shouting, screaming. All we knew was that he's been stabbed somewhere in his chest or his neck.
As he collapsed on the road, neighbours tried to save Mikey's life.
The only thing he could say was that he is dying.
I rang Mikey's phone and his friend answered and he said, Mikey's been stabbed. And he said, he's gone, Hayley, he's gone. And I put the phone down on him because I didn't want to hear that. I didn't believe it.
Oh dear, let me talk up and make things clear.
This is Mikey in a music video for his own song called Oh Dear. It had gone viral and was played at the party shortly before the attack.
He wore a balaclava, you know, he hung around in a big group of lads. He did, but it didn't mean he was going to go out and stab someone or he was going to have a weapon on him.
See, this is where Mikey used to come all the time.
Mikey's wider family are feeling the impact of his death.
I'm so proud that I was his older cousin, and still nothing makes me so proud. So yeah, he was a little star.
In March, one of these 16-year-olds was convicted of murder, 2 of manslaughter. The jury agreed. This footage showed they were carrying knives hidden in their tracksuits.
Why would you take a knife to a 16-year-old's birthday party? Why would you need to have a knife in a house party? Yeah, that is really shocking.
When I was 16, even younger, 14, I thought it was so cool to have like a naughty boyfriend or hang around with naughty people. You might think you're cool because your boyfriend gets arrested and he's cool and, you know, he drives stolen cars or even carries a knife, but it affects so many other people's lives. The scariest thing is you think, who's next? And that sounds so horrible, but you do. You genuinely sit there and you think, who's next?
When I'm alone, I do chat to him. Sometimes I just sit on my phone and look at pictures or videos of him. I felt numb. Yeah. Like, he'll come walking back in the door. I've always said that. Still feel it. Well, I hope.
Do you think that'll ever go?
No. No.
Do you want it to?
No. No, I don't. His shoes are still by the back door. His work boots are still by the front door. Just in case. Yeah.
The devastation caused by knife crime. Mikey's mum, Hayley Ryle, ending that report by Dan Johnson. Polling stations will be open in England and Wales on Thursday to elect local councillors, police and crime commissioners and nearly a dozen mayors with responsibility for some of the UK's biggest cities. Anyone can vote if they're over 18 and registered at an address where elections are happening. The polling stations will be open from 7 in the morning until 10 at night, and you'll need photo ID or a voter authenticity certificate. Last week, we looked at the mayoral elections, and today we're turning to local councils. Alex Forsyth has been with voters in Milton Keynes.
Ready, let's go! The race is well underway in elections that will decide who runs local services in places like here in Milton Keynes and will signal which parties are ahead or falling behind, their fate in the hands of residents like the members of this running group. What are the things that are on your mind?
Obviously the potholes, got a lot of building going on, where other councils are creeping up to the boundaries of Milton Keynes and building 4,000 or 5,000 houses.
Do you think differently in a local election than you would in a national election?
Oh, absolutely, yes. Do you know your local councillor and do you get the leaflets through and which colour are they and that type of stuff?
I was really surprised when I came to do some research. I couldn't really find out what they stood for or what policies they supported and what their manifesto was locally, so I think that's really important. The other thing I'd say is, though, at the moment I think it's really hard for some people to separate local elections from the national elections as well, because I think they are thinking and looking forward to a general election.
Last time a similar set of elections was fought, the political landscape looked very different. It was 2021. The Conservatives had a bit of a boost after the COVID vaccine was rolled out. Now the polls look bleak for them. They are defending seats. They know heavy losses could prompt questions about the party's future and its direction. Currently in Milton Keynes, no one party is in charge of the council. Labour's been running it along with the Lib Dems, but hopes to take control. How people vote here is sometimes seen as an indicator of national trends. How Labour does across the country will show whether its performance in the polls is matched by support at the ballot box. But geography matters too. Is the party building support in the places it needs to ahead of the general election? The Liberal Democrats are targeting areas where they would like to win Westminster seats. And what impact could the smaller parties have? Will the Green Party gain traction? And what level of support is there for Reform UK? There's a lot to play for as parties pitch to voters like these parents, plus challenges around council finances and vital services.
Biggest issue is house prices and rent. Before COVID, it was really bad. Now it's extortionate. So I read all the manifestos. Some of them say affordable housing, but that doesn't mean anything.
It's obviously the economy. It's probably the toughest 12, 18 months I've had since I've had the business. And nothing seems to be getting any better.
Are you feeling like there is someone that's speaking to the issues you care about?
Not really, no. I don't know what they're trying to tout other than that they're better than the opposition.
For local communities, these council elections are important in their own right, but they're also a crucial measure of the national mood. Alex Forsyth, BBC News, Milton Keynes.
And you can find out more by going to the BBC website, search for local elections, and you can enter your postcode to find the full list of candidates standing in elections in your area. Water-based sports across the UK are calling on the government to address pollution in rivers, lakes and coastal waters. They want compulsory monitoring of all sewage outlets to protect swimmers, canoeists and others. Here's our sports editor, Dan Roan.
Pupils at Greenbank Primary in Rochdale enjoying their weekly session on the water. The school offers sailing courses at a local reservoir, and for the kids it's one of their favourite lessons of the week.
When it's windy, it goes really fast, so you get a bit scared, but other than that, it's quite fun. It's very cool.
Is it a good thing to do?
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, because it's still a sport, so you still get exercise.
The water quality here at Hollingworth Lake is good, but the same cannot be said elsewhere. Amid mounting concern over safety, 7 water-based sports, including angling, rowing, sailing and swimming, have now formed an alliance to demand the government goes further and faster in tackling pollution on behalf of nearly 500,000 members.
They're worried about if their children are going to get sick, if they're going to get sick. Our athletes are concerned when they go out training, are they going to get poorly doing the thing that they love? So yeah, we're hearing it every day now. There's a lot of rivers that are under real threat from sewage discharge, and that puts our members and our community under direct health threat.
A government spokesperson said sewage pollution in our waters is unacceptable, which is why we've taken action to ban water bosses' bonuses when criminal breaches have occurred, quadrupled company inspections next year, provided more funding to our water regulators and fast-tracked investment to cut spills. Many will hope that this unprecedented coming together by water-based sports helps to ensure that places like this are protected for generations to come. But it's not just here at the grassroots of sport that there are concerns about water pollution. Last month's boat race was marred by sewage, with rowers told not to enter the Thames amid high levels of E. coli, and the sports want regulators to be strengthened along with accurate access to real-time water quality information.
We work closely with the government, we want to influence the water companies, as everyone who has a voice, a leadership role, a part to play in this, if they haven't stepped up already, this is the time to step up, because we will ultimately run out of time.
This comes amid fears that pollution in the River Seine could jeopardise the swimming leg of the Paris Olympics triathlon competition. Even the very biggest sports events not immune from concerns over water quality. Dan Rowan, BBC News.
Now, the first peregrine falcon chicks of the year have hatched at a tower in Derby Cathedral. 3 of the chicks were spotted on a webcam being looked after by their mother. Peregrines have been nesting on the cathedral tower since 2006, and cameras have been set up to allow people to watch them in real time. Now, finally, to a little bit of beginner's luck. 10-year-old Brodie was doing some metal detecting at his first ever event in Gloucestershire, and he found a rare 14th century seal once used by church officials. Because the seal is not classed as treasure, Brodie's allowed to keep it, and as he told us, he's already set his sights on something bigger.
Ooh. We went for our first dig ever, and so we heard a beep, and so we dug, and then about an inch down we found this. It's called a matrix seal, and it's the Lamb of God. It's probably about 800 years old, and the writing on the side says Roger of Tetbury. So we don't know which Roger it is, because is there 3 or 2?
You're going to have to follow the tracks, bro, so we don't get...
Yeah, my mum wants to find a ring, like a golden or silver ring. Oh my God. What I always dream about finding something really big, like a horse and carriage or something, or really good jewellery, or Roman swords or hats.
10-year-old Brodie. Now, we're going to have a look at the weather now. Thomas Schaffnacker is here dressed for the summer, so I'm just hoping that you might actually produce some warm sunshine for us.
I will produce it for some of us. And, today it was beautiful sunshine across many parts of the UK, but not everywhere. Some of us were stuck underneath the thick cloud. It was raining, for example, in the southwest of England, southern parts of Wales, and this is our outlook. It's a bit of a mixed bag as well. So on the one hand, we've got some warm sunshine, but also rain at times. I'm kind of sitting on the fence, but for a very good reason. Now, look at the weather map here, or the satellite picture. You can see this front here across western parts of the UK. So that'll continue to produce rain through this evening. There'll be some showers, I think, along the North Sea coast as well. But that bit in the middle, where, mind you, today the weather was the best, will stay generally dry overnight. Not particularly cold, or maybe temperatures down to 5 or 6 in the sheltered glens in the north. But with the southerly wind, I think temperatures around 8 to 10 in most towns and cities. And then here's tomorrow's weather forecast. Starts off quite bright, murky in places. Then showers break out. Temperatures could get up to 20 in London. On the North Sea coast, still quite chilly, around 13 there in Newcastle. But I want to emphasise the potential for showers and thunderstorms, which could come our way Wednesday night. And here they are, streaming in from the south, anywhere along the southern counties could be into southern Wales as well later on in the night. And it's going to be brief, but the downpours could be very nasty with some hail and gusty winds as well. And there could be some residual showers, I think, through Thursday as well. Now, notice that wind off the North Sea. The water temperature is very low this time of the year. So, again, 13 in Newcastle, but look at that. Around Liverpool, temperatures could get up to about 20 degrees Celsius. Now, it stays on the mild side. I mean, these temperatures, nothing spectacular for the south. That's not far off the average anyway. But remember, closer to the North Sea coast, it's going to be quite chilly. Towards the west of the UK, it's always going to feel a little bit warmer with these easterly winds. Back to you.
You need to work on the weather, Thomas. There's no sunshine in that at all, as far as I can see. That's it from us on the BBC News at 6. You can keep up to date with all the latest developments on the BBC website. It's time now to join our colleagues for the news where you are. Goodbye.
Good evening from BBC London on a difficult day for the capital and one of unimaginable loss for one family. You join us here in Hainault in northeast London as we've been hearing the scene of a critical incident after 5 people were stabbed in what police have called a truly horrific attack. Sadly, we now know that one of them, a 14-year-old boy, has died from his injuries. Let me just recap what happened here this morning. Police were called shortly before 7 a.m. to reports by people here in the area of a vehicle being driven into a house on Thurlow Gardens, that's near Hainault Underground Station. Then reports emerge of multiple stabbings, with images surfacing on social media of a man carrying a sword. A 36-year-old man was arrested 22 minutes after the first 999 call. Police say the incident is not terror-related. It was later at a police press conference at 12:30 lunchtime that it was then confirmed that a 14-year-old boy had died from his injuries. They also confirmed that 2 members of the public had been injured and 2 police officers had been seriously injured, all being treated in hospital. It's hard to imagine just how frightening it must have been for people living and working in this area at that time of the morning. It has shocked the capital as a whole. My colleague Lakshmi Gopal has been hearing from a community shaken by what happened here today.
A neighbourhood suddenly in the spotlight, a community shaken by the attack, particularly those who saw the horror firsthand.
The man got out with a samurai sword. He tried to talk to one female resident. She ran away from him. As he's pulled the sword out in the air, she's tried to warn the other neighbour.
People were running off the street, they were running into the station, and somebody said, get inside, get inside. There's a guy with a machete.
Manpreet Singh was stuck within the police cordon at his office inside Hainault tube station earlier, so spoke to me via video call.
I saw about 5 or 6 people just going in and out of the station, out of the street, as if they were trying to fight off with someone. And then one of the guys was already stabbed. He was holding his neck, and he was a big guy as well. And he was holding his neck, and he was like, I've been stabbed. And can you call he told the guy at the station, can you give me something to hold on the blood on to? It was horrific. I've never seen something like that in 15 years of my life in this area.
Just up onto the pavement and speak to the officer in the high-vis just down there, OK?
This mother spent hours holed up at home, terrified this morning, before she found out the suspect had been detained.
I don't know, it's happened just near me, and I'm staying in the house 3 hours in my room, and I don't know what happened.
Sergei Plotmitsky didn't want to take any chances, so accompanied his wife on the way to work today.
Being scared, so I offered her to take her to the next station, tube station, to the Fairlop. So we took a walk just to be on the safe side. Yeah, I saw neighbours as well. Everyone is terrified.
It's like everywhere though, isn't it? But you don't think it's going to happen on your doorstep.
Christine Molt has lived in the area for 25 years. The news of the death of the 14-year-old boy hit her hard.
I've got 3 grandkids that live in it with me, and they both go out at the same time it roughly happened. But I didn't know that at the time till I got up and realised it, but it could have been them. So.
Families on their way home from the school run tried to process the tragedy.
The whole community is in shock. It's very out of character of the area. It's a very quiet area, very residential. So, yeah, to know that such a young boy has obviously lost his life is very sad, yeah, so we're just all in shock.
Do you think there's something that needs to be done to help the community come to terms with this?
I think the main thing is just reassuring people, and obviously because it's such a shock, just letting people know that they're safe to carry on with their normal lives. Yeah, I think the police, their presence is a big thing. That's the main thing, really.
The police say they'll continue their significant presence in the area, reassuring residents coming home and coming to terms with what happened. Lakshmi Gopal, BBC London.
Clearly a community in shock. Well, our Home Affairs correspondent Sonia Jessup is with me. Hi there, Sonia. As we've been saying, a difficult day for people here, also for the emergency services. We've seen forensic vans coming and going, the cordon still there, a big police presence. All this desperately searching for answers.
That's right. We've seen a number of people who have been stood here, the forensic teams moving backwards and forwards in the background, a number of people coming up to the police cordons asking questions. And I think we got a sense from the police today in the statements they gave, in the updates they gave, that they understand that people really want answers. They are trying to make sense of what happened this morning. But officers were stressing that this is at a very early stage in the investigation. They have appealed to the public to be patient. What they were able to tell us very early on, that this was an attack that was not thought to be terror related. They said that they did not think there was a risk to the wider public once the suspect had been arrested. So they were trying to offer that reassurance. They also said, though, that they did not believe that this was a targeted attack. And then there were more questions in that earlier press conference from journalists asking about the suspect, whether he had been arrested before, whether he was known to the police. And at that point, officers would not comment on that. They said they could not make any statement on that at the moment. Now, in the later press conference in the afternoon, we heard from Assistant Commissioner Louisa Rolfe, and she addressed some of those questions. Let's hear some of that update now.
Our thoughts, of course, remain with the family and friends of the 14-year-old boy who very sadly died here this morning. We will be there to provide every possible support to them and ensure we get them the answers they need. We're also thinking of the 2 members of the public who were injured, as well as brave officers who were stabbed during this incident. The 36-year-old man arrested at the scene is currently in hospital, having suffered injuries when his van collided with a building. He has been arrested on suspicion of murder. At this time, given his injuries, we have been unable to interview him. We know there is speculation about his background, including police contact with him. And despite urgent and extensive checks today, we have found no trace of a prior incident involving him so far, but we will of course continue to make those inquiries. As a matter of urgency, we're trying to understand exactly what happened and why. This was and is a fast-moving and complex incident and investigation, and it will take us some time to establish the facts. This will be our priority in the coming days. With the suspect in custody, we are satisfied there is no threat to the wider community, but this is an incident which has clearly shocked everyone. And over the coming days, you will see a significant police presence in this area. And we'll be remaining here, increasing our patrols and ensuring the community are safe and supported. Please speak to our officers. We are really keen to speak to anyone who witnessed this incident or has relevant information, and would ask that they come forward as soon as possible.
And so that later press conference, police press conference in the last hour or so, as you say, giving us a little bit of an update there. But many people paying tribute to the actions of the officers who were on the scene quickly, and as we heard, arrested him 22 minutes from the first 999 call after he had been tasered. But we know that 2 of the officers were also injured.
Yeah, that's right. There has been a lot of praise for those officers today, for their bravery. They've been described as heroes by the Met Police Federation, and their bravery has been praised by the Mayor Sadiq Khan too. And as you say, it was 22 minutes before that, between that first 999 call and police officers responding, arresting, tasering the suspect. We saw footage that was shared of officers pursuing the suspect through gardens. We saw him on rooftops as they were trying to make that arrest. And they were praised for shouting to members of the public, warning them to stay indoors, to lock their doors, as they themselves ran towards that danger. And as you say, we know that 2 officers were injured, and they are, we're told, requiring surgery, it seems, facing surgery for their injuries.
Yeah, we wish them the best and a speedy recovery. We did also hear there 2 appeals to the public for help.
That's right. Firstly, Assistant Commissioner Riz Lateef, in her latest update, she was asking people to be very aware of what they might be sharing on social media. We know a lot of people obviously will have witnessed what happened, they may have filmed what happened, and so she was saying be aware of distressing graphic images that could have an impact on victims and their families. But she was also saying if you do have that information, if you do have that footage, please share it with the police as they continue with their inquiries.
Yeah, all that will help with their investigation. Sonia, thank you very much indeed. If you're just joining us, we're at the cordon here of what police described as a critical incident today, where 5 people were stabbed in a sword attack, and as we now know, sadly, one of them, a 14-year-old boy, has died. There has been much praise for the actions of the emergency services, including from King Charles, who praised the courage of those who helped contain the situation and say his thoughts and prayers are with those affected, in particular the family of the young victim who lost his life. A Buckingham Palace spokesman has said that the King has asked to be kept fully informed as details of the incident become clear. Well, meanwhile, the local MP here, Wes Streeting, has been giving his reaction.
Our whole community will be devastated by the heartbreaking news that a 14-year-old boy was killed in the horrific sword attack in Hainault this morning that saw 4 others injured, including 2 Metropolitan Police officers. I can't imagine what that poor boy's family are going through, and they have my deepest heartfelt condolences. And I know the thoughts and prayers not just of this community, but our whole country. My prayers are also with the other victims of this attack and their loved ones. I particularly want to thank the emergency services for their courageous response, in particular the heroic Metropolitan Police officers who put themselves in harm's way to protect others.
That was the local MP here, Wes Streeting, giving his reaction. Well, we can cross now to our political editor, Tim Donovan, because there has been much political reaction. Of course, we are in the last week of campaigning as well for the mayoral election.
Exactly, and it has, as you would understand, had an impact on the activities of the campaign today. All the main candidates who we've spoken to were shocked when they heard what had happened, as were their the teams around them, as shocked as many other people Riz today. And so it has had an effect, not least on Sadiq Khan, who cancelled his planned event in East London this morning because, as the current incumbent mayor, he was being kept informed by the Commissioner, Sir Mark Rowley, of how things were unfolding.
You know, since I received the first phone call, I've not thought about the election. Genuinely, this really isn't about the election. There is a family who've lost a child, and I think that should be where our focus is. I'm reassured that an arrest was made quickly. I'm reassured there's no ongoing threat. We've got 2 officers who are in surgery right now. That should be our focus, rooting for their well-being, and those other 2 members of the public.
The response, as you say, is from other candidates too, from the Greens, Zoe Garbett. She was deeply horrified, she said, and she understood how this would affect the community in that area now. And the Lib Dems, Rob Blackie, said that he was so sorry for the family and the friends of the boy who's died, and thanked the police officers, as you were describing earlier, thanked the police officers for how they acted. And this was a response from Susan Hall, the Conservative candidate.
It's absolutely devastating, and our thoughts and prayers must go to those that have been injured and those family members that are so badly affected by this. It's not a time for politics, it's a time to think about those that rush towards danger, and you know, we must be grateful to the police for doing that.
This has happened 48 hours before the end of the campaign, before people vote. A campaign that has, it should be said, had as one of its main features the issue of violent crime and knife crime, and that has certainly been something that all the candidates have been discussing a lot over the last few weeks. And it is likely, perhaps unavoidable, that in the next 24 hours or so, in the campaign time that remains, that there will be a reference to that issue, and it will be discussed in the context of what we've seen happen today. Now, as you know, with 24 hours to go, we will be covering the final moments of this campaign tomorrow, but the positions and the issues around policy and everything the candidates have been saying during this campaign, if you want more details, you can find the details of all the candidates standing on our website.
OK, Tim, thank you very much indeed for that. That's our political editor, Tim Donovan. Well, here in Hainault, I'm now joined by the leader of Redbridge Council, Jazz Atwell. Thank you so much for being here. I do want to talk about support for people here, but first, can I ask you, when and how did you first hear of what happened?
For a phone call from my chief executive, and when you get a call around about sort of before 8 o'clock, you know it's not going to be good news, and it was tragic news. There's a family that's really suffering tonight, a young lad who's not returning home, and as a father I fully empathise, understand the trauma that our community and in particular a family is going through. It's unimaginable that this has happened and the pain that the family is suffering at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know that Hainault is a close-knit community. Are you in touch yet with perhaps the school or the family of the 14-year-old?
It's really early. We know the school, we know the family, but I think it's time for giving them space and making sure that the police can do their job properly. And of course, when it's the right time for the council to step in, we will be there. And what the officers are doing in the background, we're making sure that the support services are ready to step in when the police step away.
And can I pick up on those support services? Because we've heard from some of the eyewitnesses here, and also just how traumatic this must have been for people here. What support is being provided for them?
I think at the moment, like I said, today is about the police presence, and it's going to be here for at least the next couple of weeks. But the trauma that the school is going through, the trauma that the other pupils will go through, and of course our specialised team will be there in the schools, we'll be here in the community. I know that there is a vigil going on, a service going on, and our religious institutions, whether it's a church, whether it's a mosque, they're opening their doors, hoping that people can find some solace out of this tragedy tonight.
Okay, Jazz, I really appreciate you joining us here tonight. I can see that. I can also see in the distance, actually. Thank you so much. I just want to bring in Nusrat Mehtab. Hi there. Thank you, Jazz. Former superintendent with the Met. I just wanted to ask you, because we've heard about the community there and support for them, but as a former Met superintendent, just tell us what training would have kicked in for something like this.
Well, when you're working on response, you get that call. You don't know what you're gonna find, and we can clearly see that you can be dealing with anything. When the officers got there, they saw what they were faced with. They would have done a risk assessment, and they would have asked for other units to have come. Officers go through what we call officer safety training, and they have to have that refreshed every few months. And in that officer safety training, they'll be taught how to deal with somebody with a knife, a violent person, the things that they should be doing. So they are highly trained for situations like that, but they're hypothetical situations. It's just when you get there, the adrenaline kicks in, and your priority is to save life, deal with the threat, and then to be able to save life. So when they were faced with that, they would have just had adrenaline kick in, and other units would have turned up. Because he was tasered, and not all officers are taser trained.
Right.
So there's only particular officers on a team that are taser trained.
And can I ask you personally, Nusrat, when you heard what was emerging, what went through your mind?
I was horrified. I was just worried, just thinking about members of the public and thinking about those officers and what, it's a minute's reaction. You have to react. and thinking about their safety and safety of everybody else. And my thoughts are with the families of all those injured, especially the young.
And we know that also, you know, while investigations are continuing, we have seen so many people come up to the cordons, and this is obviously part of the job, isn't it? Trying to advise people, and you know, there have been some sort of heated moments as well.
Yeah.
So a lot of work going on here too.
Yes, there is, and these are the outer cordons, and then you've got the inner cordons, which are near the scenes, and there's quite a few crime scenes going on, and I don't think everybody understands. You know, they're frustrated because they want to get to the station or they want to go get to their home, so they don't really understand. But that is the core work of police officers, is reassuring them and making sure that people don't go into the cordons, because what will happen now is that you've seen the forensic teams with the white and the blue suits, so the forensic teams will be going in.
Yeah, we've seen the vans coming and going. We've seen quite a few of them actually, even while we've been here.
So they'll be looking for evidence and gathering, looking at the scenes. There'll be the investigation officers in there that are going to look at everything, and the investigation will be done slow time now, and they'll be looking at securing the ring doorbells, CCTV.
And we heard that appeal to the public for any information like that, any footage from this morning.
And I do urge the public, if you do have any footage, please let the police see, because they've got to build up a whole profile. They have the suspect, but they need to build up the profile around him, you know, what prompted him, what actually happened. We know, well, we know what happened, but why it happened, so they'll be looking all that.
And we know that the Met asked for patience in terms of that, but of course people are desperate for any update, any answers. What would you say to Londoners tonight?
Well, I'd say they've been through a lot of trauma, and they just need to cooperate, because there will be reassurance patrols. If they know anything, if they're worried, speak to police officers, because as you can see, there are quite a few police officers who do really want to help. But I totally understand, you know, what position they're in. It's terrifying.
Nusrat, thank you so much for your time this evening, but also your insight. Really, really helpful. Thank you. Thank you. That's Nusrat Mehtab, former Met Superintendent. OK, we're going to pause for a moment and let's get a check on the weather with Kirsty.
Good evening. Blue skies for many of us today. A bit of a noticeable breeze, but still feeling very pleasant nonetheless. So you can see the blue skies here over London earlier on. And of course, we've had a lot of rain already for April, which means we're going to see plenty of flowers in May. So this is an example of the really gorgeous rhododendrons here in Wimbledon. Now, in terms of the weather to come, of course, we're very interested. Bank holiday weekend is looming. Not looking promising at the moment. Low pressure very much in charge of the weather. For us today, though, we've had a lot of sunshine and just a few showers. And there'll be a few more showers around as we go through the night tonight, mainly out towards the east. So generally speaking, largely dry night in store. The cloud coming and going, staying pretty mild. Overnight lows around, say, 8 or 9 degrees. A few places staying in double digits. Should be largely dry then start to Wednesday morning, but this is where things get tricky. As we go through the day, make the most of any bright spells. The best of these will be in the morning, and again feeling warm in the spring sunshine, but we'll start to see the cloud bubbling up and a few showers breaking out, and then more persistent rain coming in to the west later on. Now, most of the rain will be out to the west, could be pretty heavy at times, maybe even a little rumble of thunder later on. Top temperature as well, maybe only 17 where it's a little bit grayer, but up to 20 degrees where we see any brighter spells. Now, the rain is an important thing to keep an eye on, because it's Wednesday night into Thursday, things could turn pretty unsettled. Keeping an eye on this warm front that's just coming in towards the southeast, that could bring the potential for some pretty heavy and thundery downpours as we go through Wednesday night into Thursday. So some hail, some lightning, a few of those lingering into Thursday itself, but actually largely dry day. Most of the showers by the afternoon confined to the north, and we might even see the sunshine breaking through. So an unsettled night Wednesday night, but Thursday itself looking a little bit more promising by the time we get to the afternoon. And again, 17, 18 degrees, that's really not too bad at all. Obviously, we'd like it to be dry and sunny, but we're not quite getting that. And certainly the outlook for the bank holiday weekend is not at the moment the best. But we're working on it. Hopefully things might settle down. But right now, we have got a good chance of seeing some wet weather as we head through the next few days. So expect some rain. Hopefully some sunnier spells in between, and in the sunshine you'll notice the temperatures are around about average, but high teens, maybe the low 20s, feeling pleasant enough where we do get the sunshine.
Thanks very much indeed, Kirsty. That's Kirsty McCabe with the weather. Let's get a final thought from our Home Affairs correspondent Sonia Jessup as shocking as this incident is, and it is indeed shocking, it has brought the issue of knife crime back into the spotlight, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think Londoners are sadly no strangers to violent knife crime, but I think this particular attack, described as you say, truly horrific attack, as police have called it, taking place here in this fairly quiet suburban neighbourhood in northwest London, a tight-knit community, as we heard, and it took place at a time when people were heading to work, heading to school, going about their day. This was the last thing people were expecting, and the nature of it, a man armed with a sword, a 14-year-old boy who has been killed, 4 others injured, including 2 police officers who were trying to protect the public and who we hear are now facing surgery. I mean, people are deeply shocked by this, understandably, and they understandably have many questions about what happened. They are trying to make sense of all of this. Tonight, of course, there are many unanswered questions. Police are here, we see them here with lots of people asking them questions for more information. Tonight, though, that investigation continues.
OK. Sonia, thanks very much indeed. Our Home Affairs correspondent, Sonia Jessup, and as she said, many questions still to be answered, and we will bring you the answers as we get them throughout the days and weeks to come. That is where we leave you this evening. As we've heard throughout the programme, our thoughts are with the family of the 14-year-old boy who lost his life and the others injured in what police have called a truly horrific attack. We will have the latest updates on this story on the BBC News website from the team here. Bye-bye.
Now on BBC One in London, a party election broadcast by the Labour Party.
London, there's nowhere else like it.
This is the greatest city in the world, and every day I wake up determined to do more.
It's not just a place, it's a way of seeing the world.
He's made the right calls to power London forward.
Sadiq's had our back.
Yeah, I think he's had our back.
Free school meals have been wonderful. It's been nice for my daughter to be able to sit down and have lunch with her friends and not to feel there's a difference between them.
Freezing TfL fares when we need it.
Delivering more police officers.
More affordable homes is amazing.
I'm a dad, so air quality is really important to me.
The transport is easy.
Hopper bus fare, the night tube and the Superloop. The Elizabeth train.
Everything on your doorstep.
Theatres, the museums, the parks.
The greatest city on earth.
I wouldn't live anywhere else. Special things need looking after, especially when times are tough.
The cost of living.
14 years of being let down by the Tories.
There's more division.
And our NHS is on its knees.
This mayoral election is going to be close between Labour and the Tories. Their choice is clear: a Tory candidate who will force our city backwards, or a Labour mayor who will continue to move us forward.
There's so much more to do.
The boss man is never satisfied.
Now let's go even further for you and our city. If you give me your vote, I'll keep TfL fares down, build more homes for Londoners, bear down on crime, lift young Londoners up, end rough sleeping, lead the way on climate action, and deliver free school meals. Jab, jab. Excellent.
Well, just imagine a Labour mayor with a Labour government working together. It'd be a game changer, it really would.
On the 2nd of May,
vote Labour.
Vote for Sadiq.
Vote for a London for everyone.
Polls are open from 7 a.m. until 10 p.m. on Thursday, 2nd of May. You'll need photo ID to vote.
That was a party election broadcast by the Labour Party for the Greater London elections on the 2nd of May. Party election broadcasts can be viewed on BBC iPlayer.
where the wave of ambition hits the rock of reality. Your sesame cracker's burning.
I need to stop shaking.
Absolutely ace.
I'm so happy, I just want to dance.
The 20th series of MasterChef. Watch all this week's episodes now on BBC iPlayer.